In this video, we will see how the Spark software supports the sale of airline optional services. In this example, we'll use a multi-passenger flight for 3 travelers, each of whom has a different frequent traveler status and preferences. We'll see how the Spark software supports unique offers per traveler by the airline based on who's asking, also referred to as traveler authenticated shopping. As shown here, each traveler profile is retrieved and merged into the reservation page. Let's shop for some flights. We will enter our desired travel, destination, and date information and do a low fare search. This looks for lowest fare flights that are available. We then see our flight results, from which we can expand, look at individual flight choices, and we'll go ahead and pick both a departure and a return. We put our selected flights into the shopping cart, and this is where traveler authenticated shopping first starts to kick in. We are presented with a series of optional services that are available to our travelers. The available choices are broken down by flight. We can see here for our departing flight, we can choose between priority access boarding, a discounted first bag fee, or a hot meal with beverage. Pictures or even video may be used to provide additional information on each service. Also note that here we can request standalone optional services such as a lounge pass that are not associated with a particular flight, as well as flight-specific items such as a hot meal. As you can see, the offer for various services is different for each of our travelers. For example, our middle passenger here is offered priority access and a discounted bag fee for $20 and $15 respectively. In contrast, our first passenger, Mr. Wrights, is an elite traveler, and as such, the same services are available at no additional charge. Finally, our third passenger on the right does not have any frequent traveler status with the airline, and as such is paying the highest price among the 3 for the very same services. This is a good time to remind you that all examples shown here are fictitious and for demo purposes only. Once we've selected optional services for each traveler, we proceed to the fare details screen. Here on the top, we see all of the fare breakdown corresponding to the flights that were selected, including per passenger as well as a grand total. Next, we have an extended section of the page which reflects the optional services that were either included based on flight status or selected for each traveler. Again, we have our first passenger, an elite status traveler, who has several services included. Our second passenger has some status but not elite and therefore is paying some fee for these optional services. And lastly, our third passenger, who does not have any airline status, is still able to purchase these services, but at a higher price. As we can see, the actual journey cost can vary quite significantly for 3 different travelers taking the same flights, depending on traveler status, also corporate relationships, as well as what is selected in terms of optional services. At this point, once we've reviewed all of the fare detail information as well as optional services, we can proceed to put everything into the shopping cart. We also have the option at this point of selecting seats, so let's go ahead and do that. We'll quickly choose seats for each of the 3 travelers. And here's another example of how knowing who's asking, even before a flight is booked, is tremendously powerful. As we hover over individual selections, we see that availability of seats, as well as whether or not premium seating is included or available at an extra fee, depends on the traveler status or who's asking. Now back on the reservations page, we'll go ahead and book. With our booked itinerary, we can now see that not only each of the flights, but also each of the optional services for each passenger have been confirmed. We can see how for passengers where there's a fee associated with an optional service, this will be settled through an EMD, or an electronic miscellaneous document. By contrast, passengers whose services are included at no additional fee do not require an EMD, because no additional payment or settlement is required. So let's now proceed to ticketing this reservation, including issuing documents corresponding to the optional services, EMDs. On the ticketing screen, we see all of the flights to be ticketed for each passenger, as well as all of the optional services that require an EMD to be issued. We don't have to ticket all passengers or all optional services at the same time, but for purposes of this example, we'll go ahead and select that we want to ticket all passengers as well as all optional services. First, we're presented with our standard ticket image, as well as the agent and auditor coupon corresponding to the flights. We can use the drop-down to view ticket information corresponding to each of our 3 travelers. If we scroll down below the ticket image, we can then see EMD information. One EMD has been issued to cover 4 different optional services purchased by our traveler. Per IATA standards, an individual coupon has been issued for each one of the services, all within the same EMD. Let's take a look at a different passenger's information. In this example, we see that 6 optional services were purchased, displaying here as 4 coupons on the first EMD and 2 on the second. Our tickets are issued. If we go back to the itinerary page, in the transaction section, we can see each document, whether a ticket or EMD, which has been issued for each passenger. Detail, we can retrieve an individual ticket image, and note that within that ticket image, we have access to all corresponding EMDs associated with that ticket. We can obtain even more detail by selecting an EMD and retrieving the actual EMD image, reflecting the settlement document corresponding to the purchased services. Before concluding, we wanted to remind you that the Spark software supports many other sources of airline content and is fully aligned with XML industry standards from the Open Access Group. Thanks for watching.